So Stefan is here with me. As we advertised, he's a award-winning entrepreneur. He's really excited to be here as well. And yeah, he basically he has developed a lot of product himself, but he's also an innovation manager currently. And yeah, at the firm Experian, I think he can tell you some more about that. And let's just jump right in it, and I'll give the word to Stefan.
So I want to share some of what I've learned about sourcing ideas from being in a big corporation and even as a budding startup. So I think what I want to start with is, what do I mean by sourcing ideas? And that's really goes into where you get your ideas. And that could be maybe ideas about the next feature, a new disruptive product or something like that. It could just be about a new business model, right? I think it's important to keep a wide and open net about the different types of ideas. But it all goes back to, are you developing the right product ideas? And so, I think we all know listening, gathering, managing ideas, analyzing ideas, and feedback can be key to answering this question, but only if you have a system in place. So you probably have, I don't know, pieces of this or maybe the whole thing about, collecting ideas. And so we have idea sourcing, right? Making sure that you're getting the right ideas, collecting them, making sure that you get them all into one place, analyzing them, breaking them down or something like that, or diving deep into them, maybe asking more questions, and then also making it actionable. I think that's the key, right? So hopefully you guys can see my screen, and I'll keep going. Thumbs up. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So what I want to talk about is that the idea intent determines the idea source. So what I mean by that is what kind of ideas and what you want to do with the ideas determines where you want to get the ideas. And I think this is an interesting topic to delve into, and it's something that I've learned on both sides of the fence here. And that's where you source your ideas depends on how you want to use them, right? So if you follow pragmatic marketing, this can be very, very similar to that. And so the target user persona is really that specific demographic, and they get, they fit every single like down to the lifestyle choices and so forth of what you're looking for. The next is current user. So that would be somebody who uses your product and overlaps some of those characteristics. Next would be the potential user, right? That would be somebody who's probably product aware, if you're following the pragmatic marketing method. Product aware, maybe problem aware, and they could convert, right? Next is the general public, and that's might be problem aware, but most likely not product aware. So I want to start with asking yourself what your company is ready for right now. If you're a well-established company, maybe you're looking for the next big idea, right? Are you a startup looking for a new feature to expand your user base? I think we all know that timing on not just the market side, but also on your internal customer side is pretty important. Where and how you source your ideas depends on what kind of ideas you want to gather, right? So if you're looking for just incremental ideas, you might want to talk to your target user personas, right? So they might be like asking for just another feature, like can I customize the colors or something like that in your product, right? If you're talking to current users, they're probably going to be looking for maybe something that's a little more custom for their particular use case. Maybe they're using your product in an off-label kind of way. And this would let them get that extra custom feature just for them, right? Because they don't fit your target user persona. Just, they're just a little off, right? And then potential user, they're competitive, right? So they're looking for features that your competition has that maybe you don't have. So this might be give you that competitive edge, or to capture that market that your competition has. And then the general public, which is disruptive, right? So what we're looking for here is maybe those ideas that somebody without a bias of your product, of your particular challenges that your customers face. These are the kind of ideas that we can get from the general public usually. And this is general. I mean, this is, obviously you can get disruptive ideas from your target user persona. But I think in general, if you want much more disruptive ideas, you want to talk to the general public because they're going to look at the problem so much more differently than your current customers. But each basically source or type of a customer has its own noise ratio. And what I mean that by noise ratio is these are the ideas that you kind of want to filter out. Maybe they're just, maybe they don't fit with your strategy or something like that. They're just not exactly what you're looking for, right? So with the target user persona, it's going to be very, very little noise, right? Because it's going to be, maybe you're talking to 2,000 of your target user persona customers, right? So it's going to be a lot less noise. Whereas you start opening it up, current user, okay, maybe you're at 5,000. Potential users, okay, you're opening it up much more. Maybe you're in the 100,000s, and then general public, who knows, right? So as you increase your net almost of ideas, you're going to increase the noise. So what I want to next talk about is some different ways to source your ideas. And some of these I've got to try, some of these I've got to see, and I think that they're all pretty interesting. And sometimes they're just different ways of looking at how to get ideas. So the general public, there's so many great places to get this. So Facebook groups and ads. If you're maybe a small product maker and you're building an audience on Twitter, maybe you're building in public or something like that. Twitter surveys, honestly, pretty interesting way to get some feedback really quickly. Forums, that way you can get a little bit targeted towards maybe particular challenges or something like that. LinkedIn polls, if you're doing more B2B, this is actually a pretty interesting way to do it. YouTube ads, really, really interesting way because you can actually target pretty interesting on lifestyle choices. So you could have a YouTube ad that actually pulls them to maybe an idea board or something like that where they can put their ideas or just upvote ideas or something like that, right? Quora, this is a great way to look at how people are currently solving those challenges and maybe ask them different questions, maybe follow up with them. IdeaScale is an interesting platform that lets you actually put out ideas and put it to a larger audience. And then social media. And this is a general benchmark that I got from a study that was done. And they're saying that 25% of your invited crowd, hopefully you should get about there. I've seen way less and I've seen a little bit more too. So, but just a good metric to keep in mind. On social media, I want to dive into an actual anecdote that I had. So one of the products that I'm making on the side is for data cleaning. It's an application to help data scientists to clean their data because that's pretty much what they spend most of their time on. Instead of actually making machine learning models, they're cleaning data. Who knew, right? So I made this little product video and put it up on YouTube and then posted it actually in a Facebook group. And then I posted in a couple other Facebook groups. And what these Facebook groups were about was data science. So I was able to talk to a very, very particular audience about a very particular challenge and show them my idea. And in 4 days, I was able to get 1.3 thousand views here. So, and I got some really interesting comments too, some feedback and everything like that. Here's a few that I thought were interesting. Let me know when I can download the beta. Got some sets I'd like to run through it, right? And I got some follow-up. I got to friend them. I got to ask them questions. It was a very inexpensive way because it cost me nothing. Just applying to some groups, putting up a video, and got some feedback really quickly, got some validation. So it's interesting how you can use social media in kind of some interesting ways to target particular types of challenges, customers, or whatever it may be. So next is another group that I want to talk about, which is potential users, right? So these are users that are probably problem aware, but maybe not product aware, right? So they don't know about maybe your product, but they know about the problem, right? So you could do on website surveys. Maybe they've gone to your your website or something like that. Sales feedback, it's really great to know, what's worked, what's not worked, right? Client cancel feedback surveys, that would be maybe users that cancel their service with you or something like that. Win-loss analysis, I love this one because it really cuts down deep into what was the underlying problem of why maybe we won a deal or maybe why we lost a deal, right? And then group feedback sessions, which is, I think, arguably my favorite, just because with those feedback sessions, when you're actually telling them, maybe even one-on-one or even in a group, you can ask those 5 whys, right? And really get down deep into the challenge. So there's a lot of different cool tools to put up, to do like a group ideation session or something like that. Product board, $20 to $100 a month. Canny's a really cool one. Upvote, you can see lots of different ways of doing it. I didn't like any of these for my particular use case. I was doing a whole bunch of different ideas and for specific audiences. Like I had one board for one vertical, and I had another board for another vertical, and I had this board for this particular product, and none of these really did it. So I made my own, and I called it vote boards. And I made it so then pretty much anybody can go on there for free and start using it. So, and then if you need a few extra features, you can do $5 a month. As you can see, chump change compared to these other ones, right? But what I love about these group ideation sessions is the high quality of ideas. You get to get that understanding, like I said, the 5 whys, you can go into that. You can also get people that are rallying around an idea. So if, and sometimes you're trying to avoid, that group think kind of issue, but sometimes it's also really helpful to get a whole bunch of people kind of going, yeah, this is the idea I really love. I really love this, right? Because it really quickly validates an idea. On the cons, you have to set up ahead of time. You have to conduct these sessions sometimes. Sending out an email or something like that and hoping people go in there. Yeah, you can, maybe you want to provide a reward, Amazon gift card or something like that. It works. And then sometimes ideas can be competitive ideas, right? And it can be time consuming to do all this stuff. But still, I highly recommend this one, worth it. So what I want to talk about a little bit is vote boards and some of the things that maybe you'll be looking for in your feature set. So, having it real time, if you're doing a group talk or something like that, and you're trying to talk about ideas, making sure that you have something that's real time so that you can see the ideas start to bubble up and you can see new ideas coming in. Making sure you have privacy controls. You don't want those, maybe sometimes you don't want those ideas shared to a larger group. So making sure that you can have that. Getting a unique URL is kind of nice, so then you can send that out and make it easy. And pardon the dog in the background. And then being able to export that data. I can tell you from experience that there's been a couple of different products where you can't export the data, and I spent copying and pasting, hundreds of ideas, not very helpful. So current user and target user personas. So what I want to talk about here is really those users that currently use your products, or maybe are or fit specifically your demographic down to the lifestyle choice. So current users can open you up to new uses for your products and new adjacent markets. Target user personas usually give incremental ideas that improve your product, but necessarily aren't really game changers, right? Aren't those divergent ideas, those disruptive ideas, those kind of things. But there's a lot of different ways to reach these people. You can do MailChimp, Typeform, Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, Refiner. Yeah, you can use vote boards to send out an email and gather ideas, or have it on your website and just include those. Another competitive product is Note.io. That one's $25 a month, I think, for each board. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but my favorite still, one-on-one interviews. You get to dive deep, you get to understand their challenges, really understand maybe some of their emotional kind of motivating factors. And you can even do this remotely. I know it's hard to do a one-on-one in real space. So you can use Look Back and other types of tools like that to get that feedback. So where to start, right? So making sure that you're collecting it aggregating it. If you need a free tool, Airtable is a pretty good one where you can put in a whole bunch of different feedback and really get that insights collected in one area, and you can start to break it down. But it's important to select the best source and method, and that fits your particular goal. And that's where I think you should really start when you are looking for new ideas, is figure out what kind of ideas is your business ready for? What kind of ideas is the market ready for? Is it an older market or something like that where it could be disruptive? Or is it a established market that already has lots of competition in there, even new competition? So I think identifying the goal is the key, and I put this as a foundational level, whereas selecting the best source and the method and aggregating it, it's just the layers on top that really make it all work together. And one thing that I want to leave you with is, the value of an idea lies in the using of it. I love this quote. I reference it probably way too often, but I think it's really critical that collecting ideas is just the start, making sure you get the right ideas in the very beginning, garbage in, garbage out, right? But making sure that you can use it. And so it's really important to have all those pieces together to make sure that you can not just collect them, not just, analyze them and aggregate them and stuff like that, but also make them usable for maybe yourself if you're just a budding startup, or your executive team if you're in a big corporation. And one last thing is, don't be a stranger. So my name again is Stephen Weber, and I'm building 2 different products right now on the side. I love to share my successes, my failures, quite a lot of them last year especially. And I criticize them very, very crucially. And so you can follow me on Twitter or add me on LinkedIn. Always happy to talk and share anything that I've been learning, and hope this was helpful. Robin, I think you wanted to see if there's some questions or anything.
I'll just try like this. So Luke is asking that when validating the level of market competition, where is the saturation point? So where is competition too much?
Yeah. That's an interesting way. So if there's too many, just so I'm going to repeat the question just to make sure I understand. So how do you know if the market is saturated, right? If there's too much competition, if you can't wiggle in another solution, right? I would say that if people are still finding that challenge, even with all these solutions out there, and they're still meeting that, and it's not really getting to their needs, then that's where you can fit in. If you can find that niche, that's gold, right? And in my opinion, the best way of finding that out is still one-on-one interviews. But what I have seen is conversations in Quora or something like that, where they're like, hey, I have this problem. Here's some 5 solutions. Those don't work, or something like that. And that's where, okay, let's talk to this person, right? Or let's understand a little bit more of where they're coming from. And just seeing those challenges. Another way is just, like I said, another way is Facebook groups or something. If you're targeting a specific group, say like, agencies or something like that are doing marketing, right? Then you want to go into maybe Facebook groups, go into a few Facebook groups on agency life. And if you see the question that you're trying to answer over and over again, and people answering it, but it's still coming up, well, then you got a problem that's not being attended, right? Even if you're going on Indie Hackers or something like that and seeing that problem over and over again, there's a challenge still, and people aren't finding the solution for it. Maybe it's bad marketing, maybe, but it might also be that there's still an opportunity here.
There's another question, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, let's go with this one first. So from Andre, and he asks, in our company, we found an idea that solves lots of pain points for the general public. The need of it is validated by hundreds of people, and technically it is easy to implement, but we found issue in the legal part of the idea. How would you approach that?
Yeah. So, like most corporations, there's maybe some compliance issues, right? And I think that there's a lot of different ways that corporations deal with that. I can tell you internally that we actually have a pretty large amount of people that work in more of the legal space that we work with when we talk about ideas, and we get to give them insights of like maybe where we're getting the data from or something like that, or how we're going to be using it, or our, maybe our growth strategy and stuff like that. And some of those things can be a little bit, in the gray area or something like that, right? But explaining it to them and letting them go and research and then coming back and just keeping these are the biggest risks that we have on the product, right? Mapped out, and then just knocking it down one by one through the legal process really, I think, helps. And making sure that your executive team knows about some of the maybe potential risks or something like that of going this way, of doing it this particular way or something like that, right? Hopefully that answers it. I know that there's a lot of different ways to solve this problem, and so, but at least this is one way that we were able to solve it.
There's also another question, which is basically, is there any best practice for getting the most from one-on-one interviews and asking the right question that elicit the right information you can learn from?
Oh, love this question. Oh my God, I can't ask for a better question. Okay, so here's what we do. Okay, and I'm not saying this is the best way, but this is the way that has worked for this particular company and this particular culture and these particular clients, right? And maybe it'll work for you. Is first look at your product that maybe it's a potential product, right? Let's pretend that, and map out the risks. What are the biggest risks? What are the things that you are very unconfident about, but that would significantly impact the product, right? So for my data cleaning app, right? I'm going to take that one as an example, right? It's called Rook and stuff like that, right? So this one, I'm not sure if making a simple version of cleaning your data is going to motivate data scientists to want to use it, because they're used to sophisticated methods. They're used to paying $15,000 a year for a product that does this, right? What if it was simpler, right? Would they be okay with that, right? So that's my biggest risk. And I have actually, like, I think 6 other risks that I've mapped out, and I'm confident on each one because I've talked to, at least one person here. Now, okay, my confidence goes up a little bit. I've talked to another person here, my confidence goes up a little bit, right? So if you can get at least 3 people that are saying the same thing, it helps you to build those confidence, right? So first, map out those risks. Next, build a script with specific tests that maybe you want to ask that eliminate those risks. So it would be questions that map up to that particular risk that you want to ask in your script. And this is like a script for an interview, right? And so first you want to, start off in the intro, maybe something like, hey, there's no wrong answers, right? Sometimes people are a little reluctant to share feedback, especially if it's hurting somebody's feelings after making a product for, maybe a year or something, whatever it may be, right? Especially if you're talking to somebody that you actually know, there might be a little bias there, right? So make sure that you have an intro in your script that makes it feel comfortable for them to share, right? Make sure that you're asking questions about, like, what's motivating them to solve this challenge, right? The emotional motivations can be almost just as powerful as sometimes the financial motivation or something like that, save them money or whatever. And then going into asking those questions, making sure that you're asking questions in a non-biased way is really, really hard, and it's really worth it, because the way you can ask a question can significantly impact your results. I think we've all seen polls where it's like how they ask the question is really leading it, right? It's changing the results. So help building that script. Make sure that you avoid those biases. Make sure that you're testing those risks, and you're reducing your overall risk on the project, and that helps you to move forward with the project with confidence and not waste your time, honestly, you know, and I just want to be building something that nobody's going to be using. Hopefully that answered it. I know it was long-winded, but hopefully it was helpful.
Nice. Yeah, maybe if I can just add something to that as well. So I believe that, or from my experience, one really good way in one-to-one interviews is really going for like the story that people have to tell. So sometimes not even asking like direct questions, but rather just trying to find out about some routines, about something that is kind of related to what you want to find out, but just make people talk a bit more and tell like some details, some experience, some personal stories. Because oftentimes you learn a lot just from, you know, hearing about people days and about their experiences. Yeah, a really useful tool actually out there is like, you probably know, it's called the empathy map. So it's basically a tool to where you try to not only like listen to people and figure out what they're saying, but at the same time you try to kind of interpret more what they're feeling and how they are perceiving things. So you try to kind of, you know, get into their head a bit more than just what they are saying.
Very true, very true. One thing I heard from a Google innovation expert that I particularly love is she tries to ask this question of, hey, what brought you here to this point? And it lets them tell a story. I know it sounds like a really weird question to ask, but it lets them tell a story of the situations, what happened to them that brought them to this point where they're trying to solve this challenge. And it really paints a picture. It gives them almost a paintbrush, you know, to just color in all these types of challenges that they're facing and build that empathy so quickly. So just highly recommend that question.
Is there any other questions? And if not, would you have anything to add, Stefan?
No, nothing. Just love talking to anybody who's excited about innovation, and would love to connect with anybody else. And you know, thanks for everybody's time.